Most people are not defeated because they lack intelligence. They are defeated because their intelligence is exposed, emotional, and poorly disciplined. They reveal too much. They react too quickly. They assume others play fair. They believe clarity is safety and honesty is protection. In reality, these instincts make them predictable, and predictability is the currency of control. The world does not reward brilliance, it rewards positioning, it rewards restraint. It rewards those who understand not just how to think, but when not to think out loud. Machiavelli understood something that modern culture desperately tries to deny. Human behavior does not operate on ideals, it operates on incentives, fear, desire, and opportunity. Those who rise are not necessarily better, kinder, or smarter. They are harder to read, harder to rush, harder to corner. They move before others understand what is happening, and by the time the crowd reacts, the outcome is already sealed. To be impossible to outsmart does not mean you dominate every conversation or win every argument. It means you are never fighting on someone else's terms. It means traps miss you, manipulation fails against you, pressure does not move you. While others scramble to respond, you are already several moves ahead, not because you are louder, but because you are quieter, not because you are faster, but because you are earlier. The first Machiavellian law is this: never allow your full position to be visible. The moment people understand exactly what you believe, what you want, and how you decide, they gain the ability to adjust against you. Most people expose themselves constantly. They explain their reasoning to feel safe. They justify decisions to avoid conflict. They announce plans to receive validation. Each of these actions hands over leverage. Once your inner logic is visible, others can anticipate you. They can time you. They can counter you. Machiavelli warned that men are easily deceived because they want certainty. This desire for certainty is what causes exposure. Dangerous intelligence moves differently. It does not lie unnecessarily, but it does not clarify without reason. It answers questions without revealing motivation. It speaks enough to remain credible, but never enough to become predictable. Silence is not weakness here, it is camouflage. When people cannot place you, they hesitate, and hesitation shifts power quietly, without confrontation. This restraint also protects you emotionally. Guilt requires visibility, shame requires exposure, urgency requires desire to be obvious. When your internal state is unreadable, these tools fail. There is nothing to grab, nothing to threaten, nothing to rush. Over time, people stop testing. They approach carefully. You are no longer easy to probe, not because you are aggressive, but because you are contained. The second law is control of perception, not through deception, but through selective disclosure. Information is not a virtue, it is a resource. Most people give it away to feel honest or likable. They overshare, they volunteer context, they fill silence with explanation. In doing so, they surrender narrative control. Dangerous intelligence understands that perception shapes reality. You do not need to correct every misunderstanding. Often, allowing others to believe what they assume works in your favor. Machiavelli observed that people judge more by appearances than by reality. This is not an insult to humanity, it is a description of it. By controlling what others can see, you guide what they assume. By withholding selectively, you force them to guess. And while they guess, they project their own fears, expectations, and insecurities onto you. This projection often protects you better than clarity ever could. This law applies everywhere. In negotiation, never reveal your bottom line prematurely. In relationships, never expose your full emotional investment early. In conflict, never show all your capability at once. Let others underestimate or miscalculate. Assumptions are fragile. Facts are dangerous. If someone believes they understand you fully, they stop being careful. That is when mistakes happen, usually on their side. The third law is pragmatic empathy. This is not kindness, it is perception. Most people confuse empathy with agreement or emotional resonance. Machiavellian empathy is different. It is the ability to read motivations without absorbing emotion. It is understanding what drives people without being driven by them. It allows you to anticipate reactions without reacting yourself. People rarely act randomly. Behavior reveals need. Arrogance signals insecurity. Aggression signals fear. Excessive morality signals hunger for status. When you understand this, interactions stop feeling personal. Insults become data. Resistance becomes information. You stop wasting energy arguing with surface behavior and begin to address underlying incentives. Machiavelli understood that influence comes from alignment, not force. When you frame decisions around what others already want or fear, resistance collapses. You are no longer pushing, you are guiding. This does not require manipulation in a theatrical sense. It requires observation. When you listen without reacting, people reveal far more than they intend. Their timing, tone, and defensiveness expose priorities. Once you see these patterns, outcomes become predictable. The fourth law is internal sovereignty. If your emotions can be triggered, your intelligence can be bypassed. Most people believe they are rational, but react constantly. Praise lifts them, criticism destabilizes them, rejection angers them, approval sedates them. This volatility makes them easy to steer. Machiavelli believed that those who cannot rule themselves will always be ruled by others. Sovereign intelligence treats emotion as information, not instruction. Fear is examined, not obeyed. Anger is observed, not expressed. Desire is measured, not indulged blindly. This internal discipline creates an unshakable center. When others escalate emotionally, you remain still. When they rush, you slow down. When they provoke, you pause. This asymmetry is unsettling. People expect reaction. When it doesn't come, they begin to doubt their position. This does not make you cold, it makes you stable. Stability is intimidating in a chaotic environment. It signals control. Over time, people stop attempting emotional leverage because it yields nothing. You become difficult to manipulate not by resisting, but by not engaging at the level where manipulation operates. The fifth law is action as argument. Words invite debate. Action closes it. Most people live in explanation. They justify, defend, and promise. They believe clarity will convince others of competence. Machiavelli understood that outcomes create authority, not rhetoric. People may question your ideas, but they cannot question results. Execution eliminates uncertainty. When you act decisively, the conversation shifts from opinion to reality. Success silences critics. Failure provides data. Either outcome moves you forward. Talking does neither. The dangerously intelligent stop arguing their value and start demonstrating it. Over time, this creates reputation without performance. Your presence alone signals capability because it has history behind it. This law also simplifies life. When you prioritize action, distractions lose power. You stop engaging in debates that produce nothing. You stop explaining to those who do not matter. You conserve energy for execution. Momentum replaces validation. Progress replaces persuasion. The sixth law is the calculated end. Most people cling to what no longer serves them because ending feels like loss. They stay in relationships that drain them, careers that stagnate them, identities that no longer fit. Machiavellian intelligence treats attachment as a liability when it interferes with trajectory. Every situation has a lifespan. Intelligence is knowing when that lifespan has ended and acting without sentimentality. This is not cruelty, it is efficiency. Time is the only resource that cannot be recovered. To waste it out of nostalgia or guilt is the ultimate self-betrayal. Machiavelli warned that those who fail to adapt to changing circumstances are destroyed by them. Ending what no longer works creates space, it restores energy, it sharpens focus. The calculated end is not dramatic, it is quiet, decisive, and irreversible. Once made, the decision is not revisited emotionally. Regret is replaced by clarity. The seventh and final law is unshakable focus. Intelligence scattered across too many priorities becomes noise. The modern world is designed to fragment attention. Most people mistake busyness for progress. They react to everything and complete nothing. Machiavellian focus is ruthless prioritization. This law demands one central objective, not 10, not 5, one. Everything else is filtered through it. Opportunities that do not advance it are rejected, even if they appear attractive.
Distractions are identified and removed. Attention becomes a weapon rather than a weakness. Focus also protects you. When your direction is clear, manipulation becomes difficult. Drama cannot pull you away. Opinions lose weight. You stop chasing novelty and start compounding effort. Over time, this creates disproportionate results. While others restart constantly, you build depth. Machiavelli understood that fortune favors preparation, but preparation requires concentration. A focused mind moves slower in the moment, but farther over time. It becomes inevitable. The person who cannot be diverted cannot be outmaneuvered. These 7 laws are not tactics, they are an operating system. Together, they create a mind that is unreadable, stable, strategic, decisive, and disciplined. A mind that does not rush, does not leak, does not cling, and does not react. Such a mind is extremely difficult to outsmart because it does not play the same game as everyone else. Most people are trying to win arguments, gain approval, or avoid discomfort. You are learning to control position, timing, and outcome. This is why the world will feel different once these laws are internalized. People will hesitate around you. Tests will decrease. Respect will increase without demand. Not because you changed others, but because you changed the rules by which you engage. Begin with one law. Practice it relentlessly. Let restraint replace reaction. Let silence replace explanation. Let action replace argument. Over time, intelligence stops being something you display and becomes something you wield. Once these laws begin to take root, something subtle but irreversible happens. You stop experiencing life as a series of reactions and start experiencing it as a field you move through deliberately. The noise does not disappear, but it loses authority. Opinions still exist, but they no longer steer you. Pressure still arrives, but it no longer compresses you. You begin to feel the difference between motion and direction. Most people are in motion, very few have direction, and fewer still can maintain it under stress. This is where Machiavellian intelligence separates itself from surface-level strategy. Anyone can learn rules, very few can live with the consequences of applying them. Because these laws do not simply protect you from being outsmarted, they isolate you. When you stop explaining yourself, people feel uncomfortable. When you stop reacting emotionally, others project hostility or arrogance onto you. When you stop revealing your intentions, people accuse you of secrecy. This is the cost of control, and most people are unwilling to pay it. Machiavelli understood that power does not come without enemies, and worse, without misunderstanding. Those who rely on transparency and emotional signaling will see your restraint as threat. They cannot read you, so they cannot predict you, and what cannot be predicted is treated with suspicion. This is why many intelligent people sabotage themselves just before mastery. They soften, they clarify, they explain, they try to restore comfort in the room, and in doing so, they give away the very edge they worked to build. To continue advancing, you must accept a difficult truth. Not everyone deserves access to you, and not every misunderstanding needs correction. The desire to be seen accurately by everyone is a weakness disguised as virtue. Strategic minds choose where clarity matters and where ambiguity serves better. This is not about deception, it is about hierarchy. Not everyone sits at the same level of trust, relevance, or proximity. As these laws mature within you, your relationships begin to reorganize themselves. Some people fall away without conflict. They feel the distance and disengage. Others attempt to test you more aggressively, pushing boundaries to see if the old version of you still exists. This is a predictable phase. Machiavelli would call it resistance to the new order. When power shifts, it is always challenged. Your response must remain consistent, not confrontational, not explanatory. Consistency is what convinces the world that the change is permanent. Emotional reactions suggest instability. Calm repetition of behavior establishes reality. Over time, tests diminish. Those who cannot adapt leave. Those who can adjust begin to treat you differently. This is also where timing becomes everything. The dangerously intelligent understand that not every opportunity should be taken immediately. Patience is not hesitation, it is selection. When others rush to act, to speak, to claim, you wait. You observe how the environment moves. You let others expose their intentions through speed. Speed reveals desperation. Slowness signals control. Machiavelli warned against acting too early or too late. Both are forms of miscalculation. Acting too early reveals intention before leverage exists. Acting too late forfeits momentum. The art lies in entering at the precise moment when the outcome is already leaning in your favor. That moment is rarely dramatic. It feels almost anticlimactic. That is how you know it is correct. At this stage, your intelligence no longer seeks dominance through force. Force is inefficient. It creates resistance. Instead, you begin shaping situations indirectly. You influence outcomes by adjusting conditions rather than confronting individuals. This is where many misunderstand Machiavelli. They believe he advocated cruelty. In reality, he advocated efficiency. Cruelty is only used when it prevents greater disorder. More often, order is created through structure. You begin designing your environment to support your objectives. You remove unnecessary friction. You limit exposure to distractions. You curate who has access to your time and attention. This is not arrogance, it is logistics. Just as a general controls supply lines, you control mental and emotional inputs. This is how focus becomes unbreakable. As your focus sharpens, another shift occurs. You stop needing to win visibly. Recognition becomes optional. Credit becomes irrelevant. You care less about being acknowledged and more about outcomes aligning. This is a dangerous stage for the ego because it removes external reward. But it is also liberating. When you no longer need applause, you are free to move in ways others cannot. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He knew that the most powerful figures in history were often not the ones remembered most vividly. They were the ones who shaped events quietly, while others took the stage. The public face is replaceable, the architect is not. This is why you must learn to detach your identity from outcomes. When success defines you, failure threatens you. When identity is internal, outcomes are tools, not verdicts. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means you are not emotionally entangled with results. You pursue objectives intensely, but you are not destroyed if they change. This flexibility allows you to adapt faster than those who cling rigidly to plans.
Machiavelli warned that fortune favors those who can adjust their conduct with the times. Adaptation requires detachment from ego. At this level, you begin seeing patterns others miss. Repetition becomes obvious. Human behavior becomes predictable, not because people are simple, but because incentives rarely change. Fear, status, desire, and security drive most decisions. Once you understand this, you stop personalizing interactions. Betrayal becomes strategy. Loyalty becomes conditional. Praise becomes transactional. None of this makes you cynical. It makes you accurate. Accuracy is power. But accuracy without restraint becomes paranoia. This is another trap. Many intelligent people fall into hypervigilance, assuming everyone is a threat. Machiavelli did not advocate universal distrust. He advocated selective trust. You do not close yourself to all alliances. You choose them carefully. You observe consistency over time. You test with low-risk exposure before granting proximity. Trust is not given based on words. It is granted based on behavior under pressure. Anyone can appear loyal when circumstances are favorable. Only adversity reveals alignment. The dangerously intelligent do not rush this process. They allow time to filter intentions naturally. Time exposes what observation alone cannot. As you continue applying these laws, your inner dialogue changes. You no longer ask, "What should I say?" You ask, "What happens if I say nothing?"